Ricky Ponting was my hero growing up. I loved the way he batted and took the game on a lot. I'd mimic him in the backyard. That's not me. That is what Meg Lanning told me in 2017. But she didn't need to. I only asked the question because I could see it in her eyes when she played. When Lanning grew up, she did so at a time when women's cricket was hidden, amateur and barely thought of. At that point, the men's game was what everyone turned to. But now I want you to think of Lanning and her batting. The ball's on a length and outside off stump. Lanning is quickly onto the back foot, cutting between the fielders at point and third to find the boundary. It's a shot you have seen her play 1,000 times in domestic games, franchises, internationals. In fact, she's played that shot so many times that that area should probably be renamed Meg Corner. And it was fitting that this is how she'd score her last boundary in the green and gold. This was at the 2023 T20 World Cup final in Cape Town, when Lanning lifted the trophy at the end of a landmark tournament in South Africa, her 5th World Cup title as captain. She was still in her prime in terms of age. In ODI cricket, she was coming off a 53 average, 84 strike rate year, her 6th time beating 50 and 80. At T20 internationals, she averaged 39 at a strike rate of 114. A low strike rate year, but the year before she was at 53, 133. The point being, there was no reason for her to leave. And there was certainly no reason for us to believe that this was the last time we'd see her in the Australian jersey. 9 months later, on November the 8th, Lanning stood in front of a small group of journalists at the MCG and announced that she would be stepping away from the international game for good. At just 31 years of age, in her words, she had lost the spark and motivation required to perform at the elite level.
I guess that's where I've landed with this decision, is that I no longer have the spark or motivation to do what needs to happen at this level, and so for me it's time to move on. And as I said,
she finished with 241 internationals, a shocking 182 of them as captain of one of the most dominant cricket teams in the history of our sport. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your Nord VPN plan, plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects its nether region with NordVPN today. She leaves behind a legacy of relentless excellence, an unwavering commitment, and unparalleled success. And there were early signs of what was to come. Lanning represented her state Victoria at just 16, before making her debut with the Southern Stars, which is what the Australian women's team would call back then, at the age of 18. This means that she has been a professional for 15 years. And it's a thing that we forget, as many female athletes develop quicker, so they've been in the system for a long time as they hit their 30s. But she announced herself to the world with an unbeaten 100 against England in just her 2nd ODI. Australia chased down 214 with 9 wickets in hand, and it made her the youngest to ever hit a ton for Australia. That innings was a harbinger of things to come, as she would go on to score 17 centuries across formats in international cricket. 10 of those, including that first one, in chases. For context, she scored them at a similar rate to Virat Kohli, who had the most numbers of centuries in chases, 27 in 152. A few years ago, Lanning featured in a Cricket Australia video where she was asked to build the perfect batter. She picked a combination of Virat Kohli, Ricky Ponting and Ash Gardner. And of course she spoke of their trademark shots. But the 3 attributes she really emphasised were Kohli's competitiveness, Ponting's authority and Gardner's aggression. And all that is interesting because is she not just describing Meg Lanning? She might be her own perfect batter. And one of the things that I've always noticed is just how ultra competitive she is. When she walks out to the middle, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that she is out there to win. It doesn't matter who the opponent is or what kind of game. Some of you might remember an incident with Stefani Taylor at the 2017 World Cup. Taylor told the world and the people on the field that she would have a bat after winning the toss. But then when she was interviewed, she said that she was sending the Australians in. It was probably a slip of the tongue, but Lanning was having none of it, especially because she wanted to field first as well. Animated discussions between the captains and the match referee followed, and Taylor was told that she would have to stick to her original decision according to the playing conditions. It left a lot of viewers bemused. But no one was confused about Meg Lanning. She was 100% there to win, and she didn't care that a simple error had been made. And you can see all this in Lanning's walkout to bat. It's quick and purposeful. She doesn't smile at the opponents or umpires. She briefly chats with her partner. She takes guard and she is off. It is all business. And one of Lanning's most iconic knocks also came in that 2017 World Cup against Sri Lanka. That should have been a cakewalk for the Aussies on paper, but Chamari Atapatu had other ideas. And the left-hander played what might be one of the greatest knocks in ODIs, smashing the most highly rated bowling attack in women's cricket at that time, everywhere, on her way to 178. Sadly for Lanning, she also was in the third over of the chase, with Australia in trouble on 5 for 1. She went dot boundary to start her inning. And while Atapatu's knock had wreaked chaos and destruction, Lanning was languid authority. Despite Australia needing a record chase in World Cups to win, while Lanning was there, they looked in complete control and there was never really even a doubt. She finished with 152 not out, her highest in ODIs. Yet, again, it seemed like just another day at the office for her. And Lanning's aggression is different than other players. It's not about brute force, it's about a desire to win. A lot of people talk about her 133 not out at Chelmsford in 2019. A knock at what was then England's fortress, and one that completely ground out any hopes of England winning that game. But all the way back, you can see these incredible innings that she made. The 103 off 50 against New Zealand in 2012. In an age before live broadcast for Australian women's games was automatic. So not that many people saw a 20-year-old Lanning put on a show for the crowd at North Sydney. Her 100 came from only 45 balls, and is still the fastest one in women's ODIs. And you could go on and on the many times she took bowling lineups apart piece by piece. But she also scored at an incredible rate. In 2014, she averaged 50 in T20 internationals, basically the same as Charlotte Edwards. But she did it at a strike rate of 145. Charlotte Edwards was barely much more than 100. The next best of any player was Elise Villani with 122. Lanning actually wouldn't go on to define the new style of women's cricket because it became more of a power game. But she scored that much quicker than everyone else because she was that much better. She was scoring at genuine 2023 speeds a decade earlier. Lanning has broken so many records and passed so many benchmarks set by her predecessors that you almost don't appreciate just how good she was. There have and probably will be more technically sound players, even batters more elegant and certainly more powerful than her. And one day a lot of her records will be broken. But whether we'll ever see someone who is a superior batter to her is a genuine question. 8,352 runs, 1,700s and 38 50s. The only women's cricketer with a combination of an average above 50 and a strike rate above 90 in ODIs. The only women's cricketer with more than 500s in ODI chases. Every list you look at, she's on it. And this was all achieved in just 241 games at the age of 31. Remember, she was already a great by her mid-20s. And a lot of people probably look at the team that she inherited from Jodie Fields and just think that it was no surprise she had so much success. And obviously she had the players and the infrastructure and the system. And when you start to factor all that in, you start to underestimate the enormity of what she has achieved. You'd be tempted to think that almost anyone could have been that good with a team of that quality. But there was also massive expectations. She and coach Matthew Mott looked confused after Harmanpreet destroyed them in 2017. Because anything other than a win in the tournament final is a failure to this side. That's a huge amount of pressure to function under for such a long time. And it's maybe just another reason why we are seeing Lanning retire at just 31. Her captaincy record is just absolutely ridiculous. Australia won 76% of their T20 internationals when she was in charge and 88% of their ODIs. There is nobody who can match her obscene level of success. Under her, Australia set the world record for the most consecutive wins at ODI cricket with 26 between 2018 and 2021. And let's not forget the global tournaments where it really matters. Lanning stands alone with 5 titles as a captain. And that's not even counting the Commonwealth Games gold that they won in 2022. They literally had to invent new competitions for her to conquer. She is way more than qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as some of the greatest captains in cricket history. Anne Lanning, like many of cricketers of her generation, grew up with male cricketing icons. Not because they weren't great female cricketers in previous generations, but because you only really saw the men play. There's a saying that you can't be what you can't see. But Lanning became that for others. By her simply existing, she will inspire a new generation of girls and boys to take up cricket. And Lanning's legacy should not be confined to just her numbers as a batter and as a captain. Outside the field, she was a vocal advocate for equal pay, and thanks to her team's efforts on the field, pay parity is slowly turning around from a pipe dream to a reality in Australia. Under her, Australia also embraced their responsibilities as ambassadors of the game. They dominated their opposition, but you often see them spending hours talking to fans after the matches, donating equipment, and taking hundreds of selfies. And this generosity with their time isn't reserved just for fans. There is a beautiful photograph of Lanning speaking to a group of Pakistani players as well at the North Sydney Oval. You can see how every single Pakistani player is hanging on to every word Lanning has to say. She is their GOAT. Women's cricket will evolve so quick that Lanning's records may actually look quaint in a few years. Like how people question how Bradman could be the best while playing against plumbers all the time. And there are some great names among Australian women players and throughout the world. But this is what a lot of them are. Names listed on scorecards, names in the occasional match report, and names that you kind of remember. Lanning is not just a name. She is a face, a star, a constant presence. So it doesn't matter if you are a woman from Pakistan or a girl from Box Hill. If you turn on the TV and you see Lanning smoking another 100 like she owns backward point, you are moved. She is not just a great cricketer, but the spark that lights the match. The professional who took over the world. And for all of her trophies, perhaps her biggest impact is simply that for when young girls search for a cricket hero, for a generation there was one on TV, making runs, winning World Cups. When she was growing up, she looked at the men's game for inspiration. But girls don't need to import their cricket heroes anymore. They have Meg Lanning. A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer, and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? That I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I'm sitting on a new one right now. I'm the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from FlexiSpot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from FlexiSpot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of FlexiSpot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric, ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of FlexiSpot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings.